Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. I wanted to make another video for you, just basically going over how your lesson would look like on a Windows 11 machine. Our lesson primarily focuses on Windows 10, but I know some of you might have Windows 11, and if you go home and you try to use it, or maybe even in class, I believe we have Windows 11 machines in class, maybe a little bit different, so I wanted to have this here for you. For that reason, and also so you have something to refer to if you ever want to look at it at home. Okay, so like mentioned in our lesson, the login process is going to be the same, so we don't really have to do anything about that. When you first log into the system, similar to how when you come in the morning, you're going to have the option to log in using your student login, but at home you might have something else. You have your own personal login. So just make sure you remember that password, because it could be a pain if you don't remember it. So when you're navigating the desktop, the first thing you see here is this desktop. You can think of it as your main workspace for your computer. So you can manage your files, run applications, play videos, do a bunch of stuff here, right? So one of the main things that you want to know how to do when you're on your desktop is how to open an application. Okay, there's a number of ways to do this. Our lesson only goes over one, but which is going to the menu here, and there's some pinned applications here. If there's something here that you want, you can click on that. But if not, then what you may need to do is click on all apps up here, right? And it'll bring up this list, and you can kind of see all these different applications that you can choose from. Okay, it may look a little bit different on your machine, but it's going to be very similar to this. Okay, so another way that you can do this as well is you can go ahead and you'll see things that you maybe put on your desktop, right? So if I wanted to open this, for instance, I would double click on this, and that opens up this browser here, right? This is more of a privacy focused browser. It's not something that I would recommend anyone get. It's not for like a typical user, not at all, because it blocks a lot of stuff. So that's how you launch an application. So double clicking launches an application. You'll notice when I single click it, it just highlights it. That means it selected it. And if I right click on something, that gives me options. You see that? So keep that in mind. That's something that's fairly consistent, not always consistent, but it's fairly consistent. If you see something on your desktop and you want to launch it or open it, you double click on it. You see here? So I double click and it opened this. If I want to single click it to select it, there we go. And right click brings up options. You see that? So you want to get used to right clicking and left clicking. Okay, so I was a little bit outside of what we were talking about, but that's how you launch applications. You double click on them. Now another way that you can do it is you can single click on stuff down here. You see these options down here? If you've ever pinned something to your what's called the taskbar right here, like if I want to launch PowerPoint, instead of double clicking like I would on the desktop, I can single click here, and you'll see that this is gonna launch my PowerPoint here. I have two screens open. That's why you see me dragging it across, just so that the video is not so cluttered. So that's how you do it. You just single click on something down here if you wanted to launch something, and that'll launch it as well. There's a couple of ways to open applications. Now the next thing is working with files. So when we are working with files, we have the option of using this down here, and I would recommend using this unless you know shortcuts and things like that. But for the most part, using this down here is called the File Explorer. So when we single click on this File Explorer, you single left click on it, it opens up this, they call it a Windows directory, but for you just think of it like a file, right? The File Explorer brings up this this file, almost like a filing cabinet, right? So right now it's telling me, we're in this PC, right? It tells you up here, this is called the path. And it basically tells us where we are in our computer, in our file structure. So similar to how if you had a filing cabinet at home, maybe you had something that was, you stored your resumes in a file called your documents folder. And in that folder, you had your resume somewhere, right? Same thing would be here. So if I go to the left-hand side, this shows the most used locations, right? So if I click on documents, this brings up things that have to do with documents. So you see I have all these different documents here that I've stored in my documents folder. Now you'll also see, you're bound definitely to see some kind of little folders here that don't have to do with documents. And that's because some applications, they store application information in your documents folder, usually for customization stuff. Okay, so don't be surprised when you see that. Okay, so since we're in this area, right, what we're going to do is we want to talk about how to search for files and applications. Okay, so there's a couple ways to do this too. My father has his files. When he opens it, he has maybe like 1,000 files in there because he stored so many things in one folder, and it's really hard for him to find something, right? He has to scroll and scroll and hope he doesn't miss it, and it just becomes a mess. It's like, you know, if you have one of those tables that has all the coupons and mail and everything else, and it's just a pile of mess, and there's no way for you to find it. It's kind of like that, but it's in a file this time. So what you can do is up here on the upper right, you'll notice it says search documents, right? If you're in an older version of Windows, you also have this window, but it may not say the same thing. But you just look for this little magnifying glass, and typically it'll have that little magnifying glass. So you can click in there, and if I wanted to look for the syllabus for this class, I could type something. What is something that I had in the file name for that document? So I can name it. I could search for CPBC2, and you see it narrows everything down for me. So now when I typed here CPBC2, it says, hey, this file has CPBC2, and it brings that up for me. So that's one way that you can search for documents, and if you're in a certain folder that you want to look for a specific document. Now, if you're, for instance, looking for that here, right? If I type CPBC2, you'll see here it does something very similar. So again, we went to the bottom here on our desktop in that little search box. Yours might be in a different area, but you'll still have a little search box somewhere. Or you may have a picture of a magnifying glass that you need to click in order to bring up that search box. You type in whatever file or application you're looking for, like that one there, and it narrows it down. You see that? So, you know, similarly, if I'm looking for Brave browser, right? Brave browser is a browser that I use because I don't like to see ads and I don't like to really mess with too much stuff. So Brave will come up here. You see that? So it narrows down and it finds that application for you if it's not on your desktop. So that's something you want to get used to using. So here's something else. Another section of our lesson goes over finding applications, right? So we need to be kind of quick here. I'm limited to 10 minutes here. So if we are in this area here, when we click on this Windows symbol, this brings up our Windows menu, right? Our Start menu. We'll see that there's an option called Settings. You're going to look for a little gear, and that's what we have here, okay? So that gear is our Settings option. It may be on the side for you, but that's our Settings option. Okay, and finally, if we want to shut down our computer, you can single click here, single left click, and on the right hand side you're going to see where it says power. If we click that, that'll shut down the computer. And similarly, we can right click and go to shut down and sign out, and that'll allow us to shut down the computer as well.